Over the last few weeks, the first thing we discussed was the infinite, and that the infinite allows for the finite to exist. It is part of the infinite reality is that the infinite must allow for finite to exist. And what we did was we spoke less about the infinite creating finite and more that the infinite suspends itself to allow the finite aspect of itself to actually have its own identity. And we spent a whole week picking that apart. After that, we discussed the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot discussion was all about this infinite cycle of 10 different energies 10 different kalim, 10 different receptacles, 10 different prisms that channel and project the light from one to the next. Infinite number of times. Now, it's not just that it happens an infinite number of times, but that there were an infinite number of Sefirot that Hashem could have used to allow the finite to exist. Of the infinite number, Hashem uses 10. And what we noticed about these 10 is that it is all-inclusive, that if you move from 1 to 10, you almost would find it hard to work out where else could there be Sefirot. What are the Sefirot? What other definitions to the light? What other definitions to the energy could there be? What other traits could there be? And we can't imagine them because that remains part of the infinite. So that was the Sefirot. We spoke about the Sefirot can be found in everything. The Sefirot can be found in political systems. The Sefirot can be found in the deepest teachings of Kabbalah. To give you a few very quick examples, the Sefirah of Chesed was an emotional sphere of output, as opposed to Chochmah, which is an intellectual concept of birthing. The birthing of a new idea, the drawing from the infinite and bringing into the finite, but it remains so close to the infinite you cannot put it into you can't quantify it into words. But we spoke about chesed as being, once you've finished an idea, moving it forward, expelling energy, getting things moving. Now you'd be chesed, and we translated chesed as kindness. Kindness is about extending yourself outward. So when you are kind to someone, you give of yourself to an other. If you actually are kind in not giving someone, what you're actually doing is you're giving and then withholding it. There's no such thing as kindness that doesn't come in the form of giving. Sometimes what we get is gvura, which is restraint, working together with chesed, which is giving. And so sometimes we restrain ourselves out of love, which is a form of giving with restraint. But chesed is an interesting idea. Chesed is kindness. Chesed is allowing yourself to extend into something else. Chesed, it could be about you quantumly leaping beyond your own limitations, because you allow yourself to be taken when you're a chesed type. But chesed, it doesn't just mean kindness and quantum leaps, but chesed can also be a behavior trait. And the example that I gave someone was that America has been referred to as the Medina Shel Chesed, the empire of kindness. And if you think about it, America in the last 400 years really is that. America is a place. Give me your weary, give me your sick, give me your poor, all that other stuff that the Statue of Liberty represents. I don't care about modern American politics. I'm talking about historically what America is. It's a country that is built on freedom. It's built on liberty. It's built on people contributing and giving. But it also allows for max. When we think of America, we think of not coffee, we think about coffee. We don't just think about a burger, we think about burgers. Everything is massive, everything is big, which would also explain why most of the world's wealth is actually in America. There is so much wealth there. There are so many new ideas, big companies, everything. Because America is big, it thinks big. That's also, that we can see chesed is also a bad thing. If chesed can come from a bad place, and all that big and stuff can become extremely dangerous. So it's not good or bad, it's just a fact. In Kabbalah, it talks about the north is Gvura. Russia is the north. Those Nordic, that North Pole region of the world is Gvura. And Gvura is about restraint. It's about being closed. It's about withholding. It's not about being mean or stingy, but it's an absence of expression. We might call Gvura hardness or toughness, strength, and the Tzofa in the north is in Kabbalah described as Gvura. So if we start walking around the world geographically, we find some very, very interesting things. America is not chesed in that segment of Kabbalah. In fact, America doesn't get referenced in that segment of Kabbalah because it predates America. But I'm just making some points that these Sefirot can be found far beyond the spiritual spheres of energy moving from one to another, but we find it in personality traits as well as national traits, as well as behavior within sciences. Then last week we discussed the fact that there are infinite number of dimensions. There are many, many, many dimensions to reality. We started with the infinite. We moved through Tohu, the chaos of everything wanting to internalize the infinite, and therefore the finite existence is not being able to withhold the infinite energy, and therefore the subsequent, what we called explosion, or the breaking of the Sefirot, the breaking of the Kalim, I should say, into a point that they cease to have their own proper identity and they're left as broken shards. We also spoke about tikkun, which is the process of things coming back together. We spoke about atzilut being the lowest level of the infinite, of where the infinite shines. The metaphor for that is where light comes from a light source. Light that comes from a light source carries the message of the light, but it is not the light source, but it is not the light source itself. But it is not the light source, in that you can't say this is where the light source ends and this is where the light ray begins. The light ray is deep within the light source, but the light ray is not the light source. And if there is a ray, what must there be? A consumer. If there is something emitting to, there must be something that is being emitted to. So the definition of light shining means that there is something to receive. So Atzilut straddles the idea that there is an other, but it's focused on from the perspective of the fact that there is a shining. So it is the end of the infinite as it begins to relate to the finite. Of course, the finite is a part of the infinite, but it's where infinite as a true sense begins to end. And if it begins to end, it already has ended, because if you have the end of the infinite, you already are no longer infinite. So all these word games are just there to help us understand the many, many, many layers that make up the different dimensions of reality. We also spoke about that the mystics draw the different worlds in circles and circles within circles. So the most infinite would be the outside circle and the most finite would be the most inner circle. And each dimension is surrounded by the others. And therefore, where is all the infinite? It's right here. If you can't see it, it means you're trapped in an inner circle. You can only see as much as your shell allows you to see. But that doesn't mean that's all there is. So we look up, we see the roof. Doesn't mean there's no sky beyond. And the sky doesn't mean there's no atmosphere beyond. The atmosphere doesn't mean there's no space. You look at the sky, you go, it's blue. I know space is black, which means there's no space beyond the blue sky. Or if you have a bit of seichel, you realize there are many, many layers to the universe. So we've discussed the dimensions of reality. We have discussed the building blocks of reality, the 10 Sefirot. We have discussed the infinite is the only reality and the finite exists within there. Now let's understand what's the point of all this. Why do we need to know this? What's so important about this? So the reason why this is important is because we, humans, we creatures, we beings of the finite world are actually microcosms of this macro idea of the infinite. We have the infinite within us. It's called a neshama. It's called a soul. Let me explain to you why we exist. Everyone wants to know, what's the meaning of life? I'm about to tell you. 44. That's the meaning of life. 42. All right, so I've added 2. Obviously, I've got my own take on this. I'm no longer a hitchhiker. I'm already driving the highway. 44 is Hanukkah. That's not going to help us for this. So if you ever have wanted something, you've experienced this concept called desire, right? Now, often a desire has a trigger point. Something triggers a desire. You know, you're walking down the street, you smell a barbecue, you're not vegetarian, you go, ooh, I could do with a barbecue. That's where your desire is rooted in something. But then there is this sort of desire which is part of your very essence. You crave it. It causes a life mission. It causes a quest forever. We call this rotzon. Rotzon is where you have a will. It's unsatiable. It's unable to be quenched, and therefore it drives you. And you can sometimes get distracted, but by and large, the Ratzon is a part of your very, very inner self. And you keep going until it is either fulfilled, or you just keep going because you've got this unsatiated will to keep going until you get it, what it is that you desire. At the very core of us, there is a desire. At the very core of existence, there is a desire. Why does this world exist? Why is there physicality? Why do we have to have these infinite number of... universes and dimensions of reality, etc., etc.? Because those dimensions, as I mentioned last week, are so that the final physical dimension of Asiyah, the physical version of what is, can actually be. And even that is not really for any particular reason in of itself, except to support mankind. The most distant, the most abstract concept possible from God. The most distant, abstract concept when we talk about the infinite. What is man? What is mankind? We are a finite. The very definition means that there are two types of us already. We've got the masculine, we've got the feminine. In a very classic sense. In a very classic sense. We have masculine and feminine. There isn't even one type, prototype human. We're made up of many kinds. One thing that humans are very good at is waging war. We're excellent at waging war. No one can do a war like humankind can. No animal wages a war like us. No animal even holds resentment like we do. We have this ability to divide ourselves and society like nothing else. Nothing else has that ability. But we also have the greatest ability to unify. Nothing in the universe unifies like a human unifies. We have this ability to play with things like chemistry. We are able to look at this molecule and that molecule and see if we can bring it together to make it into something. Can we combine things? Can we combine bricks and mortar? Can we take a male and a female and produce something? Now, you'll say many things can. Yes, but we do it in more ways than any other species can. We have this ability to create shalom. What's shalom? Shalom is where you take two opposites, which should not be able to get along, and we make them get along. Oseh shalom b'mamav. That this is something that we attribute to God. God takes the infinite, makes different finite things work together. That's the sort of thing. But if you think about it, so does humanity. We take opposites, we bring them together, and when we do, we create something strong. We create a product. We have the ability to make peace as much as we have the ability to make war. War, by definition, means two groups, two people hate each other. War, by definition, means that one wants the other dead. One cannot tolerate the existence of the other. Therefore, the other has to be removed from the existence of the one. Alternatively, what can we do? We can not only coexist. What happens in Israel is hardly coexistence. It's at best coexistence. Two groups of people generally hate each other, and I wouldn't say most people involved in killing each other in Israel, but I wouldn't say there's exactly love. That's coexistence. Humans can do a lot more than coexistence. Look at what partners do, what husbands and wives do. They commit. What is marriage? Marriage it's, as I like to point out, has nothing to do with government. Marriage does not belong to the law. Marriage belongs to people. The concept of marriage is that one person says to another, "Behold, I acknowledge that a part of my soul exists within you. The only way for me to be whole is going to be if I not only allow you to be in my space, but I love you to the point that you are more important than me, because it is the only way I will be able to unify myself with myself. I no longer see you as an other. I see you, a completely different human being from a different set of parents, from a different country, from a different culture, as being a part of me." If you think marriage is cool, wait for Mashiach to come. When Mashiach comes, we're going to do this with all humans. We will see everyone as being a part, as you see your different organs as being vital components of your own body, so you will look at the rest of humanity as being a vital component of your universe. And you will see yourself as being a vital part of their universe. Not only will you be able to tolerate, coexist, share, hug, kiss, love, but you will not be able to exist for a moment without knowing that the other is intact, that the other has everything that they need. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the experience of love that a husband and wife experience, that deep lovers can experience? Can you imagine that? I'm not going to take questions now. We'll take them at the end. Can you imagine that in context of every single human? That's crazy. Now go further. What if you could feel that in context of every animal, of every plant, of every inanimate object, that you look at a rock and you go, oh, this rock, how it completes my universe. I just love it. I have this deep-seated connection and appreciation of the soul that allows this rock to exist, and thereby I value the rock that exists. I value the person. I value the animal. I value the plant, etc. We're talking about compassion. We're talking about absolute tiferes, harmony here. Harmony is not where two opposites coexist. Harmony is where two opposites come together to complement each other. They are harmony. We call it beauty. A beautiful person is a person that everything about them just fits perfectly. It's not that they're interesting looking. Interesting looking is where you notice the differences. That looks interesting. That's a very interesting painting. It's where you see the different components and your brain can't bring it together. When you say that's a beautiful painting, you don't see the elements of the painting. You see the painting as a whole. When you see a beautiful person, you see the whole thing. You see the hair, the face, the figure, whatever it is. You see that for beauty. When you don't see beauty in a person, it's because you're looking at the detail. And you're looking at things disproportionately. You're looking at this more, you're looking at this less. It's within you that there is no beauty in the other, not within the other. Sometimes people make it hard. Sometimes things are hard, but that's just our own refinement that has a long way to go. It means we might be just looking at the external, not at the internal. Sometimes we look at the internal, not the external. Bring it all together, you're going to find beauty. At the core of everyone is ratzon, is will. At the core of this universe is will. Hashem wanted that the human, the one that is capable of living without any guilt, a separate life. How many mass murderers, how many tyrants have lived till the day they died perfectly comfortable with themselves? Many. Hitler didn't kill himself because of grief and guilt. Hitler killed himself because he didn't want to get killed by the Allies. He didn't want to be captured. So he killed himself. Stalin didn't lie on his deathbed go, just not sure. Guys, you might want to investigate capitalism and you might want to look at liberty and freedom for all. Just not sure. I know I've done a lot, but just not sure. You don't have these stories of regret. And if you do, they're a rarity. They're a rarity. Most people who are tyrants do it quite naturally, quite easily, and they grow into it. Not bad. They master their craft. Their craft is to not allow for coexistence, not allow for peace, to destroy the other for the preservation, the protection, or the betterment of the self. There cannot be opposites in this world, and you are opposite to me. You are different to me. You have no place. It is only me. It is my ego. It is my existence, and I will define what should be and what shouldn't be. I am God. That is the ego. Hashem creates the human, creates the infinite distance between the infinite consciousness and the inability to even be conscious of an infinite, places that life and calls it Adam, humankind, and we are now left to wrestle everything there is. We are the bottom point of the infinite universe. We are so far, not distance-wise, but level-wise, we are so far from the core of the universe that we're not even sure what we are. We're not sure what the universe is. We definitely don't know if there's a God. We don't know if there's anything. But what we have available to us is the ability to move through experiences to find truth, to learn truth, to experience truth, to discover truth. But we have to choose whether or not we want to do that. Deep within the human is the nefesh, is the soul. And the soul is able to drive us. If you dig to access your soul, you will find a conscious drive to merge things. If you choose to cover that and bury it, you can bury it with pleasure, you can bury it with self-centeredness, you can bury it with all sorts of things, then you will find that you're not really striving to unify anything in this world. You're not looking to create a tikkun, you You're not looking to correct anything, to bring harmony to anything. The plight of the other is only as strong as when it bothers you. But if you dig deep into your own soul and you uncover that unrefined side of yourself and you reveal the refined side, you find that there's compassion for all. There is an ability to find harmony within the universe. And there is most of all the ability to be a part of something greater than your own self. Hod. It's one of the 10 Sefirot. You can be part of something greater. So we are made up of the 10 Sefirot. I explained that. Chachma is the impetus of a new thought. It's the beginning of a new thought. Bina is the developmental process, the compartmentalizing of the different segments of a new idea until there is logic and process to the idea that we've had. Das is the ability to move it beyond the intellectual side into a communicatable form of knowledge that can be shared, not only shared intellectually, but it can be turned into a building. It can be turned into whatever whatever it is that you have thought about. It can be delivered to another. Chesed is the process of generating an energy to start moving from the world of thought to the world of action, to be able to move from limited resources to the belief that you can achieve. Gvura is the ability to not go overboard. It is the ability to withhold. It's the ability to stay focused. It's the ability to practice discipline. Tiferes is the ability to find the balance between your discipline and your excitement so that you can channel your energy into something productive. Netzach is the ability to keep going through with something even if you've lost the original excitement and you've lost your course. It's the ability to find your way back and keep going even when it's no longer as exciting because all ideas become boring after a while. Hod is the ability to work with whoever and allow whatever in order to allow your original idea come to fruition. Yesod is the ability to actually move it into the place of action, and Malchus is the ability to deliver. These are the 10 Sefirot. It's no different to the creation of the universe. It is our thought and feeling and our action process that every human experiences. We are made of the 10 Sefirot. The top 3 comprise in our head, the next 3 within our chest and midsection, the lower 3 within our loins, our productive organ, and then that which we produce, which is always external of ourselves. Children are not an extension of your own body. They're an extension of you, but they are independent of you. They are your malchus. They are your destiny. They are your heritage. They are your future. They are made of you, but they are not you. They are what you have created. No different to the universe. First, there was everything. Then everything allowed. Chachma only takes place because when do you have an idea? When you allow the idea to take place. You can't force good ideas. I've been to conferences before where there are great ideas, and I've been to conferences where there are no ideas. The difference was whether they were sparking the ideas processing or whether they were forcing. I remember once being flown to America to be at a part of a think tank for a few days, and the mission was come up with the next big idea for the Jewish world. How do you force that? How? We're going to give you food, we're going to give you drinks, and we're going to tell you that there's a lot of money to spend if you come up with the idea. It took forever before anything of substance came to mind to anyone. Because you can't force ideas. I was at a conference last year in Israel where they said, we're going to provide you with everything that you need for an idea. Let's start talking. And they ran conversation after conversation after conversation with lectures and workshops and everything. And at no point did they want you to come up with any ideas. All they wanted you to do was learn, be inspired, hear other stories. You couldn't help but allow your mind to go everywhere. We were wined and dined and proverbially, and we were given the space to think. What was needed was us allowing ourselves to think. Once we allowed, thoughts came flowing. Chachma is only when you are open to the Chachma. The existence of the physical is only when the infinite allows for the finite to exist. But what is the finite? It's a concept. Sabina develops it. It gives it layers. It gives it structure. Das allows for the energy that creates and the energy that allows to flow into translated concept. To allow it to come to a point where there is a layer upon a layer upon a layer where each one is able to relate to the next. Chesed is that creative energy, that flow that allows it to happen, but Gvura stops it from imploding or exploding by limiting how much energy comes through. Tiferes is the product which will be a perfect harmony of tension and whatever the opposite of tension is. Chesed allows that even Netzach allows that even when it goes wrong, it will continue to operate. There will be the stamina to allow it to go. Hod is that now that it's existing, it must allow for each element of itself to exist, and so on and so forth. So what we see is that both the way we work is exactly how the universe came into being and how the universe works. And then we've got layers ourselves. Our nefesh, our base level. Our nefesh is the part of our soul that allows us to live. Kibdamu nefesh. The nefesh element of our soul can be found within the blood of our own body. Where the blood goes, that's where there's life. Where the blood does not go, there is no life. If chas v'shalom there's a blockage where blood cannot flow to a part of your body, that part of the body will begin to rot and die. The nefesh is our soul. It is what allows us to live. It's what drives us to live. It's what drives you that when you're hungry to go and eat so you don't die. That when you're tired, you go and sleep so you don't die. That when you're thirsty, you go and drink so you don't die. That when you're being attacked, you fight back or you run away so you don't die. That's the nefesh. The ruach is the element of our soul that allows for emotional capacity, the ability to feel, the ability to experience, the ability to respond. It's a higher level. Neshama is the intellectual capacity. It is the ability to process. It's the ability to bring new thinking. It's the ability to allow change, to create change in our life. That is a completely different thing that takes place. The ruach, so to speak, exists within the heart, the neshama within the head. Neshima, breath. Where does breath take place? It takes place in your head, with your nose and mouth. But the truth is it also takes place in your lungs. You draw from the head down into the body. The flow of your soul is via your neshama, into your ruach, into your nefesh. The flow of your energy is into your head and into your body, I suppose. That's the importance of positive psychology. If you're a negative, bitter person, you can't stop the life flow from flowing into your system. But if you're a negative person, then the life flow is being tainted with negativity. That life flow then flows to all your organs. What is your life quality going to be when it flows into you with negativity? I don't know. But I know there are a hell of a lot of interesting researches about positive thinkers and negative thinkers and how that impacts disease and illness, both in our recovery as well as in our contracting of such things. The chai is the element of our soul that is not within our body, but it surrounds our body, much like photosynthesis to a leaf. It is radiating into us because it is us, but it is already beyond our body. It is larger than your physical stature. Chai already is where you blur from being you into part of something greater, but it's focused on the you. And the yichidah is no longer about you. It's where you are, yichud, you're one, you're singular. The deepest component of our soul is where we are absolutely one with the universe, where the universe is one with itself. It is a point, and that point is infinitely large because a point can't be quantified, but it is the point at which there is no difference. We are yochid. At that point of our soul, what must we be? We must be the infinite. So the infinite flows into less infinite with a relationship to the finite, the chai, which radiates to the finite as it has a relation to the infinite, the neshama, which has a relationship with the inner, the ruach, which allows for the energy flow so that we can even exist, the nefesh. We spoke about Atzilus Bri Yetzira Asiya, Asiya being the core, Yetzira being the energy, the dimension that surrounds it, that allows it to exist. Bria, that is the impetus for Yetzira, for formation. And Atzilus, which is the shining of the infinite, so that something can exist. So what do we see? We are it. Why do we exist? Because there's a rotzon. There's a will. There is a desire for us to exist. What is the thing that drives humanity? Rotzon, desire. We have wills. We have wants in life that we want to achieve. Have you ever found when you gave into temptation that you were satisfied? So let me give you an example. Let's start with very basic temptation. Let's start with food. Food. So we're going to be non-judgmental. You might be a vegetarian. You might not be a vegetarian. So you might eat meat or you might not eat meat. So Think of your favorite food that you've once wanted. You're traveling in Asia, in America, and you go, oh, there is a top restaurant near where I'm staying, and I must eat there. And so you go to the restaurant, and you order the entree, and you order the main, and you order the sides, and you order dessert, and you order the wine, or you don't order the wine, you order the soft drink, you order the water, you order everything. And you eat it, and you're going, oh, that's amazing. There's a genuine moment of connection with your inner self. So you start losing yourself. Not a crazy form of losing yourself, but you lose yourself and you're very satisfied until midnight. You're feeling a bit peckish again. And everything that was achieved in the restaurant at that meal at 7 o'clock is long gone. The food's gone. The food may literally be gone by now. The taste of the food is gone. It's a memory, and the memory is very unsatisfying. If you're hungry, the one thing you don't do is think about that time that you had a great meal. It's the one thing that won't satisfy you. So what we see is that the satisfaction of such a taiva, of such a desire, is very short-lived. Move up a level. Art. Music. Those are not the same, but I'm going to just deal with them at the same time because time... The clock and I don't have a very good working relationship. The clock does what it does and takes no notice of me, but I've kind of taken to having the same relationship with the clock. It can do what it wants to do. I'm not going to take note of it, but I imagine you're somewhere in between. Art. If you're a genuine lover of the arts, whether it be theatre, whether it be music, whether it be visual art, whatever the art form is, in Kabbalah, and described a little in Hasidism, this is seen as a more refined character trait, the lover of arts. It's more refined. It's the difference between meat and wine are not the same. Veggies and meat are not the same. In fact, generally, you won't find anyone that craves a vegetable. Someone may want a salad, but salad is not something that leads to craving unless there's something beyond the salad, something in the dressing. Craving really begins with flesh. We crave flesh. Not everyone does, but many people do. They crave fish. More so crave red meat. You won't find that people who crave red meat have the same cravings of people who love chicken and fish. Red meat is a much deeper craving. Alcohol, particularly wine, is a more refined, but it's a deeper craving. Not everyone likes wine. And you'll notice as you get deeper, they become more dangerous. Steak does feed the nefesh bahamis. It does, if you eat meat in a gluttonous way and you eat a carrot in a gluttonous way, your character does not change in the same way. People that eat salad like madmen never become as vicious as people that eat meat like madmen. Someone who consumes meat out of desire and out of passion and out of lust, this meat is going to become a negative energy that's going to grow those qualities within them. Very hard to do with the vegetable kingdom. It has to do with the soul type of the vegetable kingdom, which is not the same as the soul type in the animal kingdom. I don't know anyone that eats rocks, so I can't tell you about that, but I can tell you the vegetable kingdom and the animal kingdom. You get to wine, which is already something different, even though it is from the vegetable kingdom, but it's its own entity, yayin. But let's go higher. Let's go to music and arts. It's a deeper level of your own self. And that pleasure. You know, let's say you go to an opera. I'm sure a Broadway musical, but already I don't know. Maybe I'm just being judgmental, but I would imagine there's something within an opera. Some musicals, or you go to a symphony orchestra, a 70-piece orchestra. Yeah, what is it? It's one of the Philharmonics. It's incredible. They're probably all European, and they are playing Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and you're moving into autumn. Oh. Autumn, Vivaldi, and the strings are building up and you're getting excited and you feel it taking you somewhere. You're going somewhere. Or you watch a brilliant ballet, you're watching a piece of Tchaikovsky and you're watching the ballerinas and the way they move, it's almost not human. And you're just taken by the absolute art and perfection. The music takes you, the dance takes you, you're going on a journey. The next day, when you think about that music, it will bring you more satisfaction than the day after you ate a steak. It will still bring fulfillment, but it's not the same. When you were there, it was there. And when you're not there, it's no longer there. But it's deeper, and therefore you can hold onto it in a more profound way. And therefore you can reflect on the music and go, oh. It's not, oh, that was a good meal, I'm starving now. There's a moment of, that was a beautiful piece of music, and you can just relive it in that moment. Of course you want more. But my point is, you haven't brought satisfaction. You've only fulfilled a taiva. You've fulfilled a desire, but you have not fulfilled your will, your quest, your inner self. Move up a level, intimacy with a lover. Intimacy with a lover. The hug, the kiss, but ultimately intimacy, sexual intimacy. That peak moment, it's incredible. That peak moment of oneness with the other, a lover. If it's not a lover, it is so dangerous. Again, as you get deeper and deeper, so the danger gets deeper. What is the best way? What is the most profound way to damage a person and hurt a person so that they may never get over it? It is going to require such hard work for them. What is the way to do that? Sexually abuse them. Sexual abuse is I'd say, second to murder. Murder actually ends their life. Sexual abuse is one layer in from there, of any nature. I don't care whether there's intercourse or not. Anything which is in the realm of sexual abuse, where you have now crossed the line beyond their permission, in a way that is of sexual nature, whether it be a hug, a touch, or anything, as profound as it is in love, so it is destructive when it's not done in a state of love. And love doesn't mean that you love the person. Love means that there is acknowledgement on both sides by two people who can consensually acknowledge that this is love. You can't love a child and say, I'm doing this to you because I love you. The child has no ability to receive that love and has no ability to quantify that love, nor that ability to give you permission to love them like that. We're talking about two adults. Two adults that love each other and reach a point of ecstasy within their sexual intimacy is incredible. And there is a depth that even though that moment only lasts so long, and even though after a while, it could be yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, there is a bond and a connection and a depth of fulfillment of the relationship that never goes away. It's still not perfect, which is why we need to be with people. And I'm not talking about that we also need to be sexually. Once you've been once, there is a deep found, of course, in a state of love, and that's why I support the idea of sex only in marriage, because there is this point of where there is unification of the two souls. There are two people that are saying, I'm never going to leave you. So no matter what happens, we're going to be together. And then you bring the two together in this state of intimacy. It's a whole other thing than premarital sex or anything else. But that when that takes place, there is an exchange, there is a unification of the souls to a point where in that moment nothing existed. And in that moment you know that you have just been with your lover. You know you've just been with your other half. And you can live with that for a long, long time, the residual of that. The need to be with someone else, that's a physical thing that of course, to be with that person over and over again, that's a physical thing. But I'm talking about the emotional achievement. But even that doesn't deliver. Even that doesn't deliver, because although the other person is the other half of your soul, as humans, we still struggle to connect with the depth of our own soul. Where is the depth of our own soul? The depth of our own soul can only be found within ourselves. And for that, you need to go to the source of our want. The source of our want is the source of the want of the universe. The entire reason for the universe being resides within the human. And therefore, the only way to fulfill that quest of connecting with ourselves to reach a point of nirvana, even though we don't have nirvana in Judaism, but I'm going to use that term for now because it's a term that means something to many people here. That point of nirvana is at the time of bringing the finite physical world and the infinite reality into a single moment of coexistence. Aseh shalom. When we make not just peace, but when we make shalom, wholeness between two things that shouldn't be whole together, because it just doesn't make sense. But when we bring the infinite into the finite, so we will find nirvana within ourselves. We've got this concept called Torah and mitzvot. To many people, Torah is the history of the Jewish people, and mitzvot are the laws by which Jews live. It's not wrong, but it's pretty shallow. If that's what it is, come on. We can do better than that. Torah is a code of spirituality, and mitzvot is how the soul and the body connect with one another. A mitzvah is a physical action that is rooted within a spiritual concept. Nothing that exists, as I said last week, nothing that exists does not already exist in a prior spiritual domain and element, dimension. This world is a physical manifestation of a dimension of spiritual nature called Asiyah, which is a manifestation of a spiritual concept called Yetzirah, which is of Atzilut, which is of Bria, which is of Atzilut, which is the beginning of, which is Tikkun, of which is the healing of the Tohu, which is the result of the infinite spreading its light and etc. in the Sephirot, as we've discussed. So everything exists already. It's the light over here already exists within the light bulb, but it has to go through many films and layers in order to get here. And the light that I'm experiencing is not as profound as the light when it starts within the light bulb, prior to the vacuum of the light bulb, prior to the gap within the light fitting, prior to it passing through the atmosphere, prior through it passing through my glasses, prior through the outer layer of my eye until the light enters the deepest points of my eyes. This is the base level. A mitzvah is the practice of bringing the physical and the spiritual together, moving through a process of meditation, of hitbonenut, of contemplation, of bringing ourselves to a point of oneness with the understanding of what this physical thing is a representation of, understanding what my body is a physical representation of then realizing that my physical is just a shell of my own spiritual self. But the only way for my spiritual self to express itself is through my physical self. And therefore I must live within the physical with the intention and the awareness of my own spiritual. And therefore when I connect with another physical, I go on a journey, and just as I have a spiritual, so that physical thing has a spiritual. And so therefore, when I do my mitzvah, whether it be tefillin, whether it be kosher, whether it be tzedakah, whether it be avat Yisrael, whatever your mitzvah is, it's just doing a doing which allows you to tap into the spiritual nature of the other. When you do that in a state of hitbonenut, with prior hitbonenut, when you do it in a state of where there is no ego, and you have stripped yourself of what you think of this moment, but you are just aware of the significance of this moment, you will experience nirvana. You will experience utopia. There is no bad. There is no physicality. There is only the now, the significance of the now. And in that moment, you will begin to experience the Ein Sof. You'll experience the infinite. As you experience the infinite as a physical being, which makes no sense, trust me, you'll know you're experiencing it. And it is incredible. So I'm told. And it's incredible. And when you get there, you feel satisfied. But why don't you retire? Because satisfaction is not, I feel satisfied, because then you go to a state of being ego. But rather you move into a state of permanently living like that, because you can never break away from the satisfaction. Because it's not I am satisfied, but rather I am unified. I am a closed circuit now that will now go infinitely over and over and over again without any loss of energy. Which is why such a person, a tzaddik, is a person who has no awareness of their own self anymore, and all they do is they live their life 120 years in this world completely experiencing the spirituality of the other by interfacing with the physical of the here and now. But if you ask a tzaddik, are you living in the here and now? They'll say yes, but I am neither here nor now. It is not about this bowl. It is not about this microphone. It is not about this food. It is about what is within this, to the point that the this ceases to exist and the I ceases to exist. And there is only the soul and the soul. That is only available to humanity. Angels can't achieve this. Other animals can't achieve this. Rocks can't achieve this, but humanity can. Humanity is the microcosm of the infinite. The humanity that was created, B'Tselem Elikim, in the image of the infinite. Meaning the infinite has placed its own Ratzon into the human. The infinite has placed the infinite into the human, has now said, just as you exist within me, so you need to find me within yourself. Remember, we don't live outside of the infinite. There's no such thing as a God who's out there peering and watching what's going on earth. The earth, the universe, is a part of the infinite. It's like your toe is a part of you. You don't peer at your toe. It just isn't as intellectual as your brain. But it's no less you, but it has a different function from the other parts of you. So the finite reality exists within the infinite. Hashem is aware of us. But Hashem will be in a state of wholeness when we are aware of Hashem. When the bottom and the top come to a point of being fused together, because the bottom is aware of the top and the top is aware of the bottom, and the two continue to exist, then you reach that infinite circle of energy of where there will never be a loss of energy, of where everything is rooted and there is no desire, there is no want, because the want is fulfilled, and the want continues to want and the fulfillment continues to flow, and therefore want and fulfillment remain united, and we have a point of tikkun. That's what we're here for. Okay? I think we can... Pardon? What's with 42? I don't know. I haven't found the soul of 42. I don't know. 4 times 7 is 28. 6 times 7. 6 times 7 6 times 7 is 42. That represents the first 6 millennia. The 7th millennia is where the infinite and the finite become merged. That's what the Zohar teaches us. So 42, when we realize that we're living in the 6th millennia, when we realize that we are trapped by the finite and that we are not the finite, but we are more than the finite, then we move into beyond 42. I don't know. I think I'm giving a comedy author a bit more credit than... yeah. So perhaps it's time that we do a bit of a meditation. I don't know. Do we need to just spend a bit of time dwelling on this? Yeah? All right. So we're going to say good night to everyone on Facebook. It's been great learning with you. Most of all, it's been beautiful that we've been able to take something like Facebook, which has so much credit for being the source of all that is bad and wrong in this world, and we're able to turn it into a source of all that is good in this moment. Nothing's bad. Very few things are bad. Most things are neutral. We have a tendency to make things bad, but we also have the ability to make things good. So we will see you later. Sayonara. Good. And now it's just us in the room. Yeah. Pardon? Nothing. That's my point. I feel like I'm in Texas now. Okay, let's close our eyes. Take a few deep breaths. I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting at the top of a mountain. I want you to see the view. And once you've seen the view, I want you to slowly find yourself floating upwards. So that you not only have the original view, but you can also see the top of the mountain. And as you look down, you can see the full 360-degree panoramic view. And just keep floating upwards. As you float upwards and you move into space, the earth is no longer just a view, but it is its own ball, an orb of many colors. And as you keep moving outward, it gets lost in the galaxy. And as you keep moving outwards, the galaxy gets lost in space amongst many galaxies. At some point, I'd like you to zoom in on another galaxy, find a planet, and move into the space of that planet until you can see the dust and the rocks that make up the surface of that planet. Each distinct speck of dust resting next to the next one. And when you're ready, you can zoom back out. And as you view this vast picture of space, you realize that this image exists within your imagination. And so this entire image of space is a part of you. But whenever you're ready, you can create this image and focus in on any particular part. You are both the speck of dust as well as the universe, as well as the creator of this image in this single moment. Everything that takes place in your imaginary universe takes place because you will it to happen and you allow it to happen. On the one hand, it affects you, and on the other hand, it's just a thought that has nothing to do with you. And so this universe exists within the infinite consciousness that both allows it to exist wants it to exist, but at no point needs it to exist. I just want you to feel special that you exist. Somehow, you complement the picture. And although you live in the picture, quest to find the purpose for your belonging to the picture. And just notice how frequently you become distracted from the quest to the point that the picture ceases to even exist, and there is only you. When you're ready, come back to your breathing. Come to the sounds of the room. Come back into the room. You can open your eyes. And see how you feel. Come back into the room.